This is Chris, the Idaho Painter here on Paint Live TV. Today I'll be demonstrating how to set up the Expert lumber staining machine. This is a machine that pre-stains lumber all the way up to a 4x12, so commonly used to do fence pickets before you install the lumber or before you build a deck. So it comes just like this. This is folded up, this is kind of folded up. It's on a pallet just like this. Everything's installed inside of it. Brushes and rollers are all inside. It has 4 legs on it, which has wing nuts right here. These wing nuts, you just loosen them and these legs just literally just slide off. So it comes without the legs on it. It's sitting and mounted on the pallet, and the legs are actually sitting on the pallet with the machine. So it comes like this, completely pre-assembled, palletized. There are some tips and tricks setting this thing up to get it to run efficiently, to get it to run smooth, and to get it to run so it doesn't damage your roller. I've had the opportunity to use it quite a bit now. The very first time I used it, I kind of damaged my foam rollers a little bit, and I'm going to talk to you about how I damaged them, the adjustments I made to make it work a little bit more efficiently. So this is the whole machine. There's no mechanical operating parts on it. You don't plug it in. It's all manual. You just push a piece of lumber right through it. Kind of show you, this is a picket that was pre-stained by the machine itself. So one person's going to take a picket, just feed it through. You can have it be a one-man machine. It can be a two-man machine. Another guy on the other end. You'll pull the picket through. And that is how it operates right there. Your picket would come out 100% stained, top, bottom, both sides, and then both ends by touching it on the roller here. So now I'm going to just go over some of the components on this machine. You've got your tank right here, reservoir. This is where it's going to house. We dump in 5 gallons of stain, and this can actually be stain or paint. You can use it for oil-based products. You can use it for water-based products, whatever you want to use it for. It does have a strainer up top that sits in there. There's 3 valves that your whatever product you have in here is going to pull down into here, and this is your spreader that's going to send out your stain, paint, whatever product you're using, and it's going to distribute it on the roller right here. It'll begin, once this one gets loaded up, it'll distribute it down to the bottom roller. I'm going to take the top off, the reservoir off, so we can begin showing you the inside. This comes off. You can just take off the whole reservoir itself individually. I can just set that aside. The platform with the distributor plate right there comes right off. Has 2 holes in it. This is how you know there's 2 rivets right here. It just mounts or sets right in the rivets, and that's what puts it right in place to distribute the stain onto your roller. So we've got our roller system. This is what's going to actually apply your paint or stain to whatever lumber or product you're using. Then it has a back brushing system behind that. So now I'm going to show you the typical setup if you're traveling with the machine. If you just pulled it off the pallet, these are drip trays. They're just going to fold right down. They're going to set in place just like this. There are screws right here that adjust your drip plate height. What you don't want is you don't want this thing sitting at an angle downward, so if anything's dripping on it, it's going to be dripping out that way. You want it to go right back into the reservoir of the Expert stain machine. It does have a thing right here. If you were down, the screw was all the way down, more than likely it's still, well, it actually does tilt a little bit out that direction, so your product, paint or stain, could end up spilling off the side. So you definitely want it up slightly so everything is running back inside your reservoir. It's got a front one and a back drip tray back here also. You don't want it up too high, because then it's going to interfere with feeding your lumber. You'll notice that the stain machine inside, it comes with 2 blocks. These 2 blocks are what would set underneath this reservoir right here, which keeps this roller right here also saturated and loaded. These blocks right here, don't throw them away because they sat under here, so it raises the reservoir up. Right underneath that reservoir is a strainer in a hole that comes down to a valve right here, a petcock valve, and this is where your stain's going to pour out. If you've purchased the stain machine recently and it came with these blocks, you have like kind of an older version. They have now updated this machine. New ones are coming out that don't come with these blocks. I believe it comes with a piece of metal and magnets that raise it up, because the blocks will have a tendency, if your reservoir is not spilling out and it's filling up inside here, the blocks could kind of just float around and float away if your reservoir moves. So they've resolved that problem, and even these blocks, people just thinking they're scraps, throwing them away, you can just go cut them, new pieces off a 2x4 if you need them, if you lost them, but they do serve a purpose. You just set them down right underneath there. Your tray right here is going to slide in. It's going to just set right on those blocks, and now this roller right here actually sets in a pool of your stain or paint right here, and as this roller is rolling, it's rolling in that pool, keeping it loaded with product. Now we've got our drip tray set down. We've got a support bar, and this bar, it's more of a height guide to when I'm sending my lumber or picket in, at what angle I want it coming in at. I don't want it coming in at an angle like this. I don't want it too low where I'm coming in at an upward angle. It should be coming in almost completely flat, just like that. This bar kind of is a guide. It kind of gives you an idea, if you have it set up properly. And once again, it can be used with lighter lumber or material where it can actually set there. But what I want is I want my picket or lumber to come in, and if this bar is too high, it's going to come in at a downward angle. It's going to hit this first set of back brushes right here too low on the brushes, and it's going to cause too much drag. So it's going to be right here. You can see the picket is coming down. It's hitting really low on the bottom set of brushes. I actually wanted to just come right through this gap, and so I got to lower my bar, so it's going to lower my lumber, so it's going to slide right through this gap, so it's going to evenly back brush it on the top and the bottom and create the least amount of drag. So in order to make that adjustment, I'm going to lower my bar. So now I've got it where it's just about splitting my brushes evenly right there. Now we're going to work on getting my rollers and my brushes set up properly. So the first two things, I've got 6 rollers, and the reason why I say 6 is they're split right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rollers right here. If I have this if I'm using a 2x4, say the 2x4 something thicker, I'm trying to send a 2x4 through here. So if I'm doing 2x4s, I want to make just a simple adjustment versus a picket. I'm going to raise it up a little bit. Just wanted to just probably squish that foam roller about, squish it down about a 1/2 inch. So now I've got probably just the right amount where it's squishing down on it, pressing down on it. I'm doing pickets, so I'm going to just set this down, loosen it up, get it down to where they're touching, and then just kind of just raise it up, just a slight amount, send it through. Now I've got 2 rollers on the sides. This is going to roll the top, this is going to roll the bottom, the sides. This could come out, like when I got it, these rollers were way out here. So this is the adjustment. Say if you're doing a 4x12 piece of lumber, 12 inches, this is going to spread out to the point where you can do a 12-inch wide piece of lumber. I'm going to bring these in, and I'm going to want these to touch. I just want it about it to squish in on the foam roller about a 1/2 inch. If you get it too squished in there, too pressed up against it, once again, it's going to create a lot of drag. It's going to be a lot harder to send the picket through. It's going to take more effort. I'm going to make sure my brushes are now set up correctly. So, because these brushes right here are going to back brush the sides. So I probably want it to be touching, the side of that by about 1/2 inch. This one's touching it by about 1/2 inch. The top one, it looks like we can probably lower it down just a little bit more. Now we're getting a good back brush on the two sides. We're getting a back brush on the top and the bottom. Now it's coming through. It's gonna split the back right here, and it's gonna be back brushing the two sides. This one right here, this is pretty far, so that's gonna create a lot of drag. I don't need it to be touching that hard. And this one's creating a lot of drag. It's really pressed down on the top one, so I'm gonna raise it just slightly up. I think we got all the adjustments on this thing ready to go. Make sure all your wing nuts, everything is tight, so nothing comes loose. Make sure everything is tightened. You don't want anything coming apart when you've got your product inside here, because then that becomes messy. Now, you see, when you first get this machine, we use it primarily to do fencing. Right now, all this setup, it might seem like it's pretty long. Once it's set up, you don't ever have to do anything. The rollers themselves, they just come out when you're going through the cleaning process. The rollers come out, so you don't have to mess around with any of that stuff to set it up again. So one more dry run, just want to make sure everything's touching, everything's back brushing, 6 rollers functioning properly, 12 brushes back brushing properly. Mount my reservoir back on top. It just sits there. You want to make sure your valves are in the off position before you start filling your reservoir. Okay, the next thing you want to do is make sure your petcock valve right here is in the open position, because if it's in the closed position, your reservoir, your machine right here is going to start filling up with stain and stuff, and if you get too much in it, it's going to start pouring out. What we want it to do is pour out through that valve into a bucket. There is a hook right under here that your bucket hangs from. Everything that comes from the reservoir, from the rollers, everything drips in down into the catch pan. Eventually it's going to come out this valve right here into your bucket. Now the bucket, I typically have a strainer on the bucket that's going to strain my product as it's going into the bucket. Set my bar, my guide bar back down, set my drip pans. Make sure your drip pans are facing upward. So now that the machine is all set up, I do have a video on the proper use that's going to give you some tips and tricks using this machine so you don't damage your rollers, so everything flows smoothly when using it. It's going to be a lot less frustrating. I've used it quite a bit, come up with some tips and tricks that will definitely help you out. So after this video, go check that video out.